Hello and welcome back to another out-of-spec detailing video here from Clear Detailing in Northern Colorado. As you guys might be able to see behind me here, we have my brand new Kia EV6. And today we're going to be starting a series of videos with this particular vehicle talking about ceramic coatings. Now the first video we're going to do here and part one of the series is coating all the wheels with different coatings here. We've got this car for 2 years on lease. We've got a fresh set of wheels and tires here. We're going to be coating the wheels and seeing how they perform. We're also going to be doing testing with this particular vehicle, talking about paint coatings, glass coatings, and it'll be a really fun series to put everything head to head to do some comparison testing. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Well guys, super excited to have you here and very excited to start this series of testing. This is something we did a little bit with my last EV6. I actually was doing a similar wheel coating test because my theory is paint coatings are actually better than wheel coatings. They're easier to install. I find they last a little bit longer, better chemical resistance. But today we're really going to put that to the test. Now, the test that I did last time unfortunately didn't work out so well because I ended up getting new wheels and wanted to take those wheels and yada yada yada. So I never got around to it, but I'm sticking to it this time. We are keeping these wheels on this car for exactly 2 years, and after this video I'm going to be correcting, polishing this car, and then using probably 8 to 10 different ceramic coatings on the paint, a couple different coatings on the windows, and the 4 different coatings we're going to be using here on the wheels. And we're going to do a long series on this to see what actually works best. Now again, as I said, I am not a huge believer in wheel coatings in general. In fact, here at my shop, Clear Detailing in Windsor, Colorado, when I'm doing services on clients' vehicles, 99% of the time I am actually using paint coatings on wheels. And the reason behind that is I personally feel a lot of the times that the wheel coating market essentially is really just a lot of marketing, talking about high temp resistance and things like that. And reality is 99% of daily drivers are never seeing super high brake temps. And if your brakes are actually getting that hot, you're going to be belting more stuff in there than just your coating on your wheel. So some of these coatings have, you know, a temperature resistance up to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Like you are going to be well past, you know, really tearing some stuff up at that point. So we're going to talk about what the contenders are here today. We have all different price points on these. 3 of these are dedicated wheel coatings. 1 is a paint coating, one of my favorite paint coatings on the market. We'll go through, talk about those, then we'll talk about the testing procedures, and we'll go through a full application of each. Now quickly, one thing I want to talk about before we get into this is chemical resistance of ceramic coatings. All are rated slightly different, and I think a lot of people, including myself, have had pretty poor experiences with wheel coatings in the past and actually their longevity. And what I personally think it is not necessarily based on the ceramic coating, but it's actually the wheel cleaners that you're using. A lot of these coatings actually request, you can see it on their sheet and their specifications, to just use a pH neutral soap or a pH neutral wheel cleaner to actually clean up your wheels. Reason being is you can get outside of that pH resistance of said coating, you can start to break it down quicker. Makes sense, using heavy alkaline based wheel cleaners or acidic wheel cleaners can break these coatings down a lot quicker. Starting off here with a product that I think a lot of you really love. I personally don't love it so much, but that is CarPro DLUX. CarPro was actually the first brand over 10 plus years ago I started ceramic coating vehicles with, and I was always intrigued by their products, and they worked very well, but they were always a pain in the butt to install. Now this is our cheapest coating of the bunch, retailing right at $39.99 for a 30 milliliter bottle. And again, what we're going to be doing is coating one wheel with each one of these coatings, front and back, and yeah, seeing how they actually last. Now this has a pH resistance of what they claim between 5 and 12. So again, if you get too high on that alkaline side or too low on that acidic side, that can be something you're going to degrade this coating very, very quickly. Now they recommend specifically on their website to use pH neutral cleaners on your wheels to clean it. In this test cycle, we're going to be doing both. So we're going to be using pH neutral cleaners, we're going to be using acidic cleaners, we're also going to be using alkaline based wheel cleaners to really see how these hold up, because again, I think it's a very important stat here. Now, this is a coating that has a claimed durability of 1+ years, which seems very reasonable for the price point. I think 40 bucks seems pretty straightforward. And this has a temp resistance of 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So some pretty high temp coating here. Again, I'm not a huge believer in it unless you're doing like full on track days every single day of your life. I'm not sure it really matters for coatings, but that is CarPro DLUX. Moving on to our next contender here, that would be GTechniq C5 wheel armor. Now, I've used a lot of GTechniq coatings in my detailing career and have been pretty impressed with them overall. Crystal Serum Light, XO-V4, now XO-V5 have always been really, really good paint coatings. Actually, one of my favorite trim coatings, GTechniq makes their C4 permanent trim restorer, which is actually not permanent, but it doesn't really matter. It's about a 2+ year durability on that, but it's a really great coating, installs very nicely and comes off really well and has some great lifetime characteristics to it. So this coating retails at $57.95 for a 30 milliliter bottle. Now, I purchased the 15 milliliter bottle here, which is nice that you can do that if you just need to recoat one wheel. So it is, quite a bit more expensive than CarPro DLUX here, but you'll see some of these are really, really expensive. Now, this coating does not have a claimed pH resistance at all. But what they do say specifically on their website is completely avoid harsh acidic cleaners and harsh alkaline cleaners. Use a pH neutral cleaner. But this is a really interesting product because of how well and how easily it installs, showing you very good characteristics of flash time, and it's a pretty straightforward coating to install. Really anxious to see how this is going to work. Moving on next to a contender I'm really excited to see how this goes is Armor Detail Supply's quartz wheel coating. Now, I have just been recently introduced to Armor Detail Supply. Being a professional detailer and having a professional detail shop, it's nearly impossible for me to try absolutely everything. Yes, I create content here on YouTube, but I still have my go-to favorites, and quickly a lot of the Armor Detail Supply products have been really impressive. So this product retails right at $79.99 for a 30 milliliter bottle, so definitely more expensive than the other two dedicated wheel coatings here. This has a claimed durability of 15,000 miles or 1+ year. Now, they have actually lab tested this to be quite a bit longer, but again, real world testing is always the best way to go here. Now, this coating is pretty high when it comes to solids, and that is at 76% SiO2 at a 99% purity there. One thing I love about ADS, right on their website, they have a hardness rating of above 9H, and then in parentheses says, who cares? That's what I love to see. Now, this is also a high temp coating here, and yeah, will be really interesting to see how this actually works. Now, the other thing I want to mention here is its pH resistance. This has a pH resistance between 0 and 13. So very, very, very chemical resistant here. And what's nice about this is you can use acidic cleaners. You can also use alkaline cleaners. But again, the more and more you use those, yes, the more and more you can break down your coating. So anytime we're testing this in this test series, every single wheel is going to be cleaned exactly the same way with exactly the same chemicals and seeing exactly the same conditions. Now, I should also mention throughout this test, we will be rotating the wheels here. So all of them see a rear axle time and front axle time to make it completely fair. Now, we'll have 2 winters and a full summer to go through here with all of these wheel coatings. So it'll be really interesting to see that, and can't wait to see how Armor Detail Supply stacks up. One thing I should mention with this coating, they actually recommend to apply 2 coats to this. We're going to only be applying 1 coat to it. Now, I'm also doing another test on my own personal vehicle, my 2025 Tesla Model 3 Performance. I have a set of Martian wheels of which I coated with Armor Detail Supply's quartz wheel coating. One of the sides has 2 layers, the other side has 1 layer. Now, the reason I am not doing 2 on this is because I don't think most people are actually going to be able to do 2 layers. Most of the time when you're coating your wheels, let's say you have a car, you've got a BMW, something like that. You drive it for 6 months and you're like, man, I am so tired of cleaning brake dust. I need to actually coat the wheels. What are you going to do? Well, if you're at home, you're going to take 1 wheel off. You're going to clean it up. You're going to polish it maybe. You're going to prep it. You're going to dry it. Then you're going to coat it. Are most people going to then wait another 1 to 2 hours before applying another layer? I don't think so. And most people are not going to have the ability to pull all 4 wheels off at the same time. So that is why we're doing a single layer, but I think this will be a really interesting contender here, and I can't wait to see how it does. Our last contender here is actually not a wheel coating at all. It is Clean by PMD Organizer's 8-year ceramic coating. Now this coating has quickly become one of my favorite coatings on the market, bar none. This can go on absolutely everything from gloss paint to matte paint to PPF to glass to trim to wheels. Everything you can coat on the exterior of your car, you can use this coating for. This has been a coating that has been very controversial when it was launched, but has been extremely impressive and something that very much rivals most pro grade coatings out there, as in fact, better than most pro grade coatings. This is what I coat my personal vehicles with here and what I use a lot of the time here at my shop to coat customers' vehicles. So this retails at a pretty staggering price when you compare it to the other three sitting here, $149.99. Now the only positive I can tell you with that, a little goes a long way. You can in fact coat an entire car with this, all of the painted surface, all of the wheels, all of the glass, and mostly all of the trim with a 30 ml bottle. So a little does really go a long way. Now this has a claimed pH resistance between 1 and 14. So not technically the best overall because ADS is 0 to 13, but really covers a wide range here. So again, if you're getting super acidic, that might be where this thing could fail, but this covers the whole alkaline scale. And again, this has just been an absolute amazing coating. So I'm really curious to see, do you actually need a wheel coating or can you use a paint coating to do on your wheels? So next, let's talk about how we're going to be doing this test, the whole regimen we're going to go through, how I've prepped the wheels to make sure that we're getting a fair, even test throughout all these coatings. So very straightforward testing procedures here. We're basically going to take one wheel and coat it with one ceramic coating, both the face as well as the barrel of the wheel. Now, to actually clean and prep these, I have gone through and fully dialed these things in, fully cleaned them, fully decontaminated them. I have polished them by machine. I have also gone through and done a full panel prep spray. So every single one of these have been truly prepped the exact same way. So there should be little to actually zero difference in between them. First coating we're going to be installing today on our driver's side front is Clean by PMD Organizer's 8-year coating. Now this is a coating that I have quite a bit of experience with. I know how to install this pretty much in the best possible way, but typically how you would install this, you liberally apply it to the face of the wheel. You can pretty much do the entire wheel at once, which is typically how I do it. And within 60 seconds or up to 2 minutes, you can knock it down. Now this also has a long work time. I've left this on wheels, on paint, up to 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and it still wipes off beautifully well. So we'll get this installed. One issue I would tell you with this coating, it's really annoying to get out of the bottle. So you want to first give it a good healthy application, and then you're just sporadically adding more and just kind of rejuvenating that coating as you go along. But overall, a very straightforward coating to actually install. So installing this here, I always punch little holes in the top of the little drip tube there, and we're just going to fold this in and we're going to start coating. Now, what you'll feel with this coating, it's pretty slick on install, and that is one of the beauties about this coating. As you guys know, I am one of those folks. I do not want honey. I do not want molasses on my coatings. I want them to apply simply. I don't think fighting coatings is ever something that any of us look forward to. You spend all this time polishing, all this time prepping, everything else. The last thing you want to do is actually fight your coating. So as I'm starting to feel this, it's going to need a little bit more, just a couple little dabs. Again, doesn't come out the greatest. That'd be my biggest gripe with this actual product. Overall though, I've been really pleased with it. And again, really anxious to see how this does specifically on wheels. And I think the biggest contender, I think, here for this, and this is just my preconceived notions, is going to be that ADS wheel coating here. I know those guys have spent a ton of time developing that, and I hear from a lot of you that it is your favorite wheel coating out there. So big props to them for that. But this installed beautifully well, very simple, using the auto fiber applicators here, getting into little grooves, super easy. The nice thing with the coating that has a long work time like this is that I can go do the barrel, or if I have a very spokey wheel that's very intricate, I can just coat the entire face. By the time I get back to 12 o'clock or wherever I started, it's very, very straightforward and simple. So while we're letting that cure up here, I'm also gonna hit the barrel. I'm probably not gonna show you how to coat the barrels on every single one, but I will give you a general overview and feel between all of them. But all gonna be pretty much installed exactly the same way, or how the manufacturer says to actually install them here. And this is a coating you guys might be able to see, I'm not sure from the angle here, but it actually turns into a big bright oil slick rainbow. That is when you are ready to actually pull it off. But again, great thing with this, comes off really, really easy. So with all of these coatings, I'm gonna go until it basically shows me the indication it's flashed off, or whatever that actually looks like. So flashing off, meaning that you see this rainbow slick here. Some coatings will actually sweat, some will haze up, whatever that may be. I'm not gonna push them longer than that. So we'll just take this down and you guys can see it's literally a single wipe and it is fully off of the surface. That is the absolute beauty about this product. It is just so unbelievably simple and easy to actually install and importantly wipe off. So you can see this here, boom, it's gone. It's pretty remarkable stuff. Really, really impressive. And I never really have any fear that I'm gonna have any high spots. The other great thing about this product, even up to, I don't know, 60 minutes, sometimes even 2 hours, depending on the actual temperature, climate, whatever it is in your shop, you can actually come back and wipe those high spots away. I've left them, you know, intentionally trying to kind of push this coating, and you just come back and wipe it away. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, a lot of workability, and that's been something I've been so unbelievably impressed. Even just showing you here on the barrel, if I come through, look how simply that wipes away. Then I can flip my towel over, boom, it's literally perfect. So I'm gonna finish getting this wiped down, then we'll move on to our next wheel. But very, very nice install here from Clean by Pam the Organizers, 8-year coating. Next up here, and this is going on our passenger side front wheel, is Armor Detail Supply's wheel quartz coating. Now, the way this installs, you're gonna basically apply it to the entire wheel at once. This is a coating that does have a good workability time between 1 to 3 minutes. Again, all of this changes between your temperature, humidity, how you install it. What we are actually looking for here is it to start to sweat a little bit or start to haze a little bit. Now, I've only installed it on satin wheels, so I'm very anxious to see how it does on gloss black wheels. Overall, it seemed to be a good installer though. Now, what they recommend is taking your basically auto fiber applicator here. They sell the same one that comes with the wheel coating, and you apply 3 layers to it. So, or 3 lines to it, not 3 layers. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna apply a line, and a line. Now, we're gonna kind of work this in. We're of course gonna make sure we put the cap on and start installing. So this one immediately, first thing I can tell you, goes on way thicker than a lot of the other wheel coatings. It's got some tackiness to it. Now, initially when I first installed this, this was something I was concerned about. You guys hear me talk about, again, you'll hear it pretty much every install here. I really don't like sticky coatings. This one is on the brink of me not liking it, but I think what it really matters more than anything is actually how it comes off. I'm okay if it's a little sticky when it goes on here. Just gonna apply a little bit more. I wanna make sure we're getting it nice and even. That's the big things with coatings. You're not trying to get them super thick. You're just trying to get them even. So we'll install this here. We'll do the barrel at the same time as well, making sure we're getting in all the little nooks and crannies. Can't say it enough times, this is the best coating applicator in the business. So we'll let that set up here. I can already see it starting to get a little sweaty, so very different from some other coatings that will actually rainbow here. So let's hit the barrel. We're gonna do this in a crosshatch motion here. I'll apply just a little bit more. Feels very nice in the barrels. All right, right, so I want to bring you guys a little bit closer in here, and you can see this coating is laid on very, very nicely. Now you'll also notice, again, this is not rainbowing, it's actually starting to sweat. Now one thing I love about Armor Detail Supply is they are very specific in their instructions and give you a lot of feedback on what you are looking for. So they are saying you're either looking for some haze here, which is starting to look a little bit hazy, and some of that sweating. They also said on your first initial wipe off, it should feel tacky. So if you're wiping it off and it just feels really slick, you probably didn't wait long enough. So again, flash times are all over the place, but I like that ADS gives you that little bit of info. And then they said once you continue to wipe this off, it will become more and more slick. So the big thing here I'm curious about is how easy is this going to come off? Is this going to be a coating that you're kind of pushing around the wheel? There's plenty of other wheel coatings out there that you do that and you just feel like you're non-stop wiping on it. So we'll let this sit for just a little bit longer here and then we'll get to wiping. They also tell you you want to work in a circular motion here when actually removing this. Just kind of helps level out the coating. Can tell you it feels pretty darn tacky. So we're definitely under that 3-minute mark since we actually installed it. But yeah, feeling pretty tacky, and that's what I remember from the first time I used this. I was like, darn it, I am not gonna like this. But the more you work it in, the slicker it gets. So now if I flip this over, come back here, man, it's just absolute butter. So again, very high solid content coating here, which is why you're gonna get that thicker feel to it. That's not always the case, but being that it is a quartz coating, that is one of the characteristics here. So not too concerned about the install. It's actually coming off really, really nice here. So pretty impressed with that. So now let's flip this over. Man, it is just absolute butter here. It's really, really wild and kind of confusing to my brain because most coatings that wipe off like that initially don't really ever get this slick. They kind of stay tacky, stay that kind of molasses feel to them. But man, that feels really, really nice. On the driver's side rear here, we're going to be installing GTechniq C5 wheel armor. Now this is one, when you install it, you are basically going to want to do half of the wheel. So we'll start off with half the face of the wheel because your flash time or curing time on here before you go in and level is between 30 to 60 seconds. So this is a coating, especially on very spokey wheels, you're going to need to work quite quickly or work in sections, so be very smart with it. So right off the bat here, a very slick feeling coating, which I always really like. If you guys know me with coatings, I don't really like a sticky coating. Probably said that about 1,000,000 times at this point now, but this is pretty nice when paired with the auto fiber applicator. Can really get into the grooves there. Pretty simple, straightforward to do. We'll get right into here. I'm feeling like this is probably going to be a little bit easier. So I'm going to do it on that section. We'll leave that and then we'll come back and do our other side. As you'll see in here with this, it's going to start to turn into this rainbow slick, indicating that it's pretty much ready to come off. We've waited our allotted time and wow, what a really, really nice feel. This is something that I really like with this wheel coating. It just is not hard to remove. It's very slick, it feels great. It actually feels extremely simple to actually remove here. So a very, very straightforward wheel coating here. That's really what I like. So we can get this in here. I'm going to tell you what, honestly on this, feeling how nice and slick it is, I would probably end up doing the entire face instead of trying to cut it up into sections. But again, trying to do this in terms of what the manufacturers recommend in terms of your actual coating. So first initial wipe off here, feeling very, very, very nice. All right guys, time for our last coating here, and that is CarPro DLUX. This will be going on the passenger side rear wheel. Now, this is a coating that I've struggled to install in the past. They have a whole briefing on doing matte wheels as well. This coating can be a little bit tricky, so make sure you're working in smaller areas than most of the other coatings out there that pretty much you can do an entire wheel. So basically, we're going to install this and wipe it off within 1 minute. So we're not going to let this sit for a super duper long time. So I'm going to apply a little bit here. It's quite a thick coating, drops out pretty slow here. Going to get a nice liberal application. Boom, down here. Going to work that into our applicator. Headlamp on, and very sticky. Actually feels somewhat similar to the Armor Detail Supply coating in terms of how it installs. But I can tell you from experience, there comes that smell back. I used to use this stuff way back in the day, like when I started detailing. So kind of fun to have this coating back in here. And yeah, it's got a almost gasoline smell to it. It's not the most pleasant smelling coating, not that I really care how coatings smell, but we're gonna let that sit here for about 60 seconds, then we'll come back in and wipe it. Just did a little test spot here. Looks like it's good to wipe off, and holy sticky. It's like wiping honey off of your wheels. Now, let's see if we flip this over. Yeah, really still grabby. So this is just a grabby coating overall, and that is really what I remember, especially using this stuff on plastic. Was really not a fun coating. Man, you can just see how the towel drags there. This is not a smooth, fun application in my impression. It just feels so thick on here. And again, just, you know, installing it as directions say, not overly applying anything like that. But man, this stuff just feels tacky, feels sticky, really honestly not a very enjoyable experience. I just kind of feel like I'm pushing it around, not doing much here, but it is coming off. It's looking nice and glossy here, so no issues there. But man, it is just sticky, even the second time we come back around. Yeah, not my favorite to install. So I think that's about it on CarPro DLUX here. I'm gonna finish off the rest of the wheel, do this side of the face, do the barrel all separately just because of how quickly we need to do it. So let's continue on, and I'll give you some final thoughts at the end. All right guys, so we just finished coating all the wheels now. We need to get them bolted up to the car, but this will be kind of the end point of this video. Now, before we do end it off, I do wanna talk through some of the coatings, just my feelings, and maybe make some initial impressions, which one is going to perform the best versus the other ones. It'll be really interesting to see here. So we will be doing upcoming videos on this series, and again, these wheels are staying on this car. I will swap out the tires when spring, summertime comes, so there will be time for us to rotate them to make sure the front axle and rear axles, everybody's getting a fair shake on these. So I've labeled all them. We know exactly what wheels are going on what. But I think it's interesting to talk about installation here. Now, this I don't think should be your main selling point of which coating you should actually choose to put on your vehicle. I do think performance matters more than how it installs, but it's something that I think is important to talk about here, especially if you have very finicky or intricate wheels. Some are clearly better than others to actually install. So I've ranked them from my favorite to install to least favorite to install. So starting over here, Clean by Pan, the Organizer's 8-year coating, an absolute breeze to use, especially here on wheels. Very clear indicators when the coating's ready to come off. Has a long working time, so if you want to do the entire face, entire barrel all at once, it's very straightforward to do and wipes off beautifully. Very impressed with that coating as always. In second place here, I give it to GTechniq C5 wheel armor. Pleasantly surprised of how simple this was to install. I don't necessarily remember that being the case, but I was really impressed, and yeah, went on very well. I would recommend just coating the entire face unless you have super spokey, intricate wheels. Split it up by sections, but clearly you can easily do the whole face, do the inside of the barrel. Very clear indications of when it's ready to come off, so that's great for DIYers knowing what they're actually looking for. Really impressed by that. Next, I would go over here to Armor Detail Supply's wheel coatings. Not to say this was bad to install by any means, very straightforward, but I would say the other two, very easy to install. And I think it's a little bit more clear having that rainbow effect on there to see what you're looking for. But ADS, it does wipe off a little grabby that first time, and then you get that slickness, which I really like. So big impression on all three of these. I'm really liking how these install. Just prefer one over the other. So lastly, of course, CarPro DLUX, which we just installed on this wheel sitting up here. I remember why I went away from this coating. It is just not fun to coat. If you've ever been like cooking in your house or just, you know, making breakfast and you like put some honey on your countertop, that's what it's like wiping it off. It is just sticky. It's not an enjoyable experience, and especially on intricate wheels, I would highly advise using something else. It's just not a fun coating to use, and yeah, really not that impressed with it. So I will tell you though, I think all of these coatings are going to perform quite well. Now again, our durability that we talked about earlier, it'll be interesting to see, will all of these last 2 years? We have 2 winters, but this is an electric car. Now I do drive this car hard, so it will see brake dust. It'll see dirt and grime. And again, we're going to be testing a bunch of different wheel cleaners on these. So 2 of these say specifically use pH neutral cleaners. Don't get into the acidic side. Don't get into the alkaline side. Use pH cleaners on them. So we're going to be testing that. But again, all the wheels are going to get the exact same treatment. We'll rotate them. We'll clean them up all at the same time. They're not going to get any added protection to them. I can't wait to see how this lasts for 2 years. So again, let me know the frequency you would like to see these videos. Do you want it every month? Do you want it every 3 months, 6 months? What do you guys want to see? I'm happy and willing to make any sort of videos you want. So let me know in the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in another one soon. Bye-bye.